Do it or I'll cut your throat.
Henry is the greatest king in the world.
Good girl.
This is him.
He thought it was just another prank. But this time, Horrid Henry crosses a line he can't laugh his way out of. This may look like one of Henry's usual pranks, the kind that ends with a laugh, a scolding, or detention. But this time, it's not what you think, because Henry's prank isn't funny anymore. It's something darker, something that even he doesn't understand. Henry's rivalry with Moody Margaret has always been personal. Every insult, every argument, every challenge between them has been a game of pride. Henry had to win. Margaret had to lose. That was the rule. But sometimes, when you live to annoy someone, you stop noticing when the game goes too far. It started like every other day, Margaret teasing him, Peter tattling, and Henry planning revenge. But this time, he didn't just want to annoy her. He wanted to scare her, to make her pay. He looked around his messy room, full of old prank supplies, and came up with an idea. A stupid one, a dangerous one. Henry decided to disguise himself. He wasn't just going to prank Margaret, he was going to kidnap her. In his head, it sounded genius. He found a bandana, an old toy knife, and told himself he was a professional, a real-life villain in his own story. The Jewish ninja, as he called it, ridiculous, reckless, and way too real. When Peter saw him, he asked questions. Henry brushed him off. Peter had seen him do 100 dumb things before, but this time, even Peter felt something was off. He just didn't know how bad it would get. Henry showed up at Margaret's house, staying in character, pretending to be part of a gang. He thought he was being funny. He thought she'd scream, run, and he'd laugh about it later. But when he saw her face scared, confused, frozen, something inside him changed. For the first time, it didn't feel like a joke. It felt wrong. Still, Henry didn't stop. He told her to do what he said, to repeat words that made no sense. It was supposed to be pretend, but Margaret wasn't laughing. She begged him to stop. That's when Henry realized he wasn't in control anymore. The prank wasn't his game, it was his mistake. Margaret's voice shook when she spoke. She wasn't acting, she was scared. Henry told himself it was just a prank, that she'd laugh later, that it was all harmless. But the more she trembled, the more real it felt. He had gone too far, and deep down, he knew it. Then came the sound that ruined everything: footsteps. Her parents. Henry panicked. He tried to stay in character, mumbling nonsense about a ransom, pretending it was all part of his plan. But his words only made things worse. He wasn't a prankster anymore. He was a kid with a toy knife threatening someone's daughter. Margaret's mother screamed. Her father called the police. Henry froze. For once, the kid who always had something clever to say had no words. His brain screamed run, but his legs didn't move. When the door slammed open, the game ended. The police were called in minutes. Henry stood there shaking, still in his ridiculous disguise. The bandana on his face didn't make him look cool. It made him look lost, confused, caught in something he couldn't explain. When the officer asked him what he was doing, Henry stammered. "We were just playing," he said, but the fear in Margaret's eyes said otherwise. Peter arrived just in time to see his brother's downfall. He told them everything: the disguise, the fake gang, the threats, and for once, Peter wasn't lying. Henry had made sure of that. Every word of Peter's story was true, and it sounded worse out loud than it ever did in his head. The police didn't care about excuses. To them, this wasn't a game. It was a kid crossing a line no child should cross. When they told Henry he was under arrest, he laughed nervously, then realized they weren't joking. The cuffs were cold, the car was colder. As they drove him away, Henry saw the faces he knew: Margaret crying, Peter staring, and his parents standing speechless at the door. The boy who always got away with it finally didn't. The world didn't find it funny anymore. In that police car, Henry learned something he never expected. Sometimes, the difference between a prank and a crime is one bad idea too many. The ride to the station felt endless. Henry tried to speak, but his voice cracked. He said he was sorry, that it was all a mistake, but nobody listened. The officer beside him didn't even look his way. Outside, the world moved on. Inside, Henry's world stopped. When they got there, the officer led him to a small gray room. No toys, no cartoons, just four walls and silence. Henry had never been this quiet before. He sat down, his hands shaking, his head spinning. The words "attempted murder" echoed in his mind like a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. Minutes felt like hours. Then the door opened. His parents walked in. His mom's face was pale. His dad's eyes were cold. Henry forced a smile, thinking they'd save him like always. But not this time. His mom didn't hug him. His dad didn't speak. They just looked at him, disappointed, broken. "You're lucky you're 10, the officer said. "Otherwise, you'd be spending the night here." Henry didn't respond. He couldn't. For once, even crying didn't help. He was too ashamed to look anyone in the eye. When they finally took him home, the silence in the car was louder than any yelling could have been. He wanted them to shout, to ground him, to do anything. But they didn't. His mom's voice came out calm but sharp. "We didn't bail you out because we forgive you," she said. "We did it because you're still our responsibility." Henry stared out the window, wishing it was another one of his pranks, wishing he could laugh it off, but he couldn't. The joke had gone too far, and now it wasn't funny anymore. At home, Peter watched him quietly. For once, he didn't tease him. Maybe even Peter understood this wasn't the same Horrid Henry anymore. That night, lying in bed, Henry replayed everything, every smirk, every prank, every time. He thought nothing could touch him, but now he knew better. Sometimes trouble isn't fun. Sometimes being horrid comes with a price. And for the first time in his life, Horrid Henry didn't want to laugh. He just wanted to wake up and take it all back. He wanted to make Margaret scream, but in the end, it was Henry who faced the fear. Because sometimes the scariest prank is the one that turns on you.